Go SpaceX, go Falcon, go NASA.
Stations verify, ready for launch. FTS.
FTS go. Object go.
AVI.
AVI's go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to the NROL-48 launch webcast. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket is currently awaiting liftoff from Space Launch Complex 4 East, or SLC-4E, at Vandenberg Space Force Base in just about 8 minutes and 30 seconds from now. Although it is a foggy day at Vandenberg, weather conditions continue to look good for an on-time liftoff. Hello everyone, my name is Amanda Yares, and I'm a ground systems engineer here at SpaceX. This mission carries a national security payload designed, built, and operated by the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO. Both the range and vehicle are currently green, and we are on track for an on-time liftoff at 10:38 a.m. Pacific Time. If for any reason we are unable to launch today, a backup opportunity is available tomorrow starting at 10:10 a.m. Pacific Time. It's worth mentioning that we will not be showing any Stage 2 or deployment views this morning at the request of our customer. So with that, let's meet our Falcon 9 rocket on the pad at Vandenberg. Falcon 9 recently completed its 500th mission overall and has already completed more than 100 missions this year. Standing at 229 feet tall, our two-stage workhorse produces more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust. And rockets like Falcon 9 don't use all that power just to go straight up. Early in flight, Falcon 9 performs a gravity turn, which is a smooth pitch maneuver that tilts the rocket sideways to build up horizontal velocity. You may hear this called out about 10 seconds into launch as the vehicle pitching downrange. Once the first stage completes its portion of the mission, it will shut down and separate. A staged rocket like Falcon 9 sheds the booster, so Stage 2 and the payload can keep climbing faster and more efficiently.
Engine chill.
Now, after stage separation, today's booster will land back at Vandenberg Space Force Base at Landing Zone 4 West. This particular booster will be returning to Earth for its 18th time. The second stage will take over from there, powered by a single Merlin vacuum engine, or the MVAC for short. With its extended nozzle and optimized design, the MVAC drives maximum performance in the vacuum of space. Topping it all off is the payload fairing, a 17-foot wide carbon composite shell that protects the payload during the uphill trip. About 3 minutes into flight, both halves of the fairing will separate and parachute back to Earth. Our fairing halves have also seen multiple flights. One is flying
Stage
for
1
its...
RP1 load is complete.
Oh, there we heard that. Stage 1 has completed RP1 load, and liquid oxygen loading is continuing on both stages at this time. Now, one half of the fairing is flying for its 28th time today, and the other for its 27th. If recovery goes to plan, the fairings will be pulled from the ocean and prepped to fly again. So much of what makes Falcon 9 remarkable happens in flight, from stages separating, the first stage landing itself back on land or a drone ship in the middle of the ocean, fairings parachuting back, all to get ready for another flight to space. And getting to space is the first step in building our multiplanetary future. Now, back to today's mission. At T-minus 5 minutes and about 30 seconds, both the weather and vehicle continue to look good for today's launch. Coming up next in the countdown, the Transporter Erector, or TE, will begin to retract away from Falcon 9. That's the large truss structure that you can see standing next to the rocket. It's hinged at the base, and it's connected to a launch mount beneath the first stage. During the retraction process, first the clamps around the second stage will open to clear the way.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for retract.
That's a good sign that we're on track for an on-time liftoff. Now then, after the clamp arms are clear of the second stage, the TE will be free to pivot backwards and slowly swing away from the rocket. It will reach full recline a few minutes prior to liftoff. You may also hear our team call the TE the strongback, and that's the same structure, just a different name. The TE plays a very active role in launch. It rolls Falcon 9 out to the pad.
Strongback retract has started.
If you look carefully, you may be able to see strongback retracting away from Falcon 9. It also raises the vehicle vertical, and it stays connected through the final seconds of launch. It provides power, fuel, telemetry, and command connections between the ground systems and the rocket. Now, the clamps at the top help to stabilize the second stage during fueling, and they also prevent movement in high winds. Once those clamp arms are retracted, the rocket is fully free at the top. Right now, both stages are nearly fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of propellant, and that includes RP1, rocket-grade kerosene, and liquid oxygen, chilled to over 300 degrees below zero. Propellant is loaded late into the countdown, and that's intentional. Colder propellants are denser, and denser propellants mean more performance out of the same tanks. Before any of that propellant flows, though, the plumbing and engines are chilled down. That prevents thermal shock and boil-off when the ultra-cold liquid starts moving. You'll hear that priming process referred to as engine chill. The loading process will wrap up in 2 steps. Coming up shortly, the first stage will finish around the T-3 minute mark. Then the second stage will finish LOX loading about a minute later. Looking ahead at T-60 seconds, Falcon 9 will enter startup.
Pogo. Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Stage 1 LOX loading is complete, which wraps up the propellant loading for the first stage. Now, after Falcon 9 has entered startup at the T-60 second mark, the rocket's onboard flight computers will take over the countdown. And from there on out, the countdown is fully autonomous. Just inside of T-2 seconds, the 9 Merlin 1D engines will ignite. And once they're at full power, Falcon 9 will lift off the pad and begin its climb to orbit. At just under T-2 minutes and 30 seconds, the payload remains healthy and the rocket is tracking no issues. With that, Falcon 9 is nearly fully fueled and heading into the final minutes before launch. The next major milestone that we're watching out for will be the completion of Stage 2 liquid oxygen loading, and that should be within the next 10 seconds.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
With that confirmation, Falcon 9 is now loaded with 1.1 million pounds of propellant across the first and second stages. And at this point, you've probably also noticed the white clouds venting from the rocket through the fog.
Ground gas close out.
That's condensation from venting the cold oxygen gas overboard to maintain nominal pressure on vehicle. Gas closeouts have started, which refers to the venting and shutting down of gaseous systems such as topping off the tanks and sealing vents to maintain pressure. At this point, we are standing by for confirmation that Falcon 9 is in startup at the T-1 minute mark.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
At this point, the autonomous flight computers have taken over the launch countdown, and stages 1 and 2 are pressing for launch. Next up, we'll hear from the launch director for the final go.
LD is go for launch.
We've just heard the launch director give that final go, so let's listen in to the final seconds of the countdown.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go NROL-48.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressures are nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base. And in just a few seconds, we'll throttle the engines down in preparation for max Q, a period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. This is a critical moment during flight because the combined stresses caused by Falcon 9 accelerating through the atmosphere and the ambient static pressure are at their greatest.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
To help go from vertical to horizontal, the first stage also performed a pitch kick just after liftoff. This is a maneuver known as a gravity turn, where the engines gimbal a small amount, and it turns the first stage from going straight up to
max Q.
Horizontal. We just heard the confirmation of max Q, where the rocket experienced the greatest mechanical stress during flight. The rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back to Earth and get into orbit. You can track our progress to orbit by watching the left corner of your display. That's showing first stage velocity and altitude. Now, coming up, we have several events in quick succession. We should hear all these called out by Mission Control, starting with main engine cutoff, or MECO, then stage separation, stage 1 flip, second engine start 1, and boost back burn. Main engine cutoff is when we shut down all 9 M1D engines on the first stage. Stage separation is when the first and second stages of Falcon 9 decouple from one another. Stage 1 flip is when the booster uses its nitrogen gas thrusters to flip the booster's orientation around. Second engine start 1, we will light the MVAC engine on the second stage for the first time, and after that is boost back burn, where the engines will light to place stage 1 on a trajectory to the landing zone. So keep an eye out for those events happening back to back.
Stage separation confirmed.
MECO. MVAC startup.
And there we had confirmation of MECO, stage separation, stage 1 flip, second engine start 1, and boost back burn. Coming up will be fairing separation just a few seconds from now. The fairing jettisons away from the second stage as it is no longer needed to protect the payload once we're in space.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Great confirmation of fairing separation, and as mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to retrieve those fairing halves again once they fall back to Earth. Now, coming up next will be the shutdown of the boost back burn. We are currently at T plus 3 minutes and about 30 seconds into today's mission, and the next major milestone is coming up at the T plus 6 minute mark, when you should see the first stage's entry burn on your screen. To start that entry burn, we will be lighting the 3 M1D engines on the first stage, starting with the center engine, known as E9, and followed shortly by the E1 and E5 engines. This is similar to pumping the brakes to slow the vehicle down as it passes back into Earth's atmosphere. We need to do this to slow down and reduce re-entry forces, which will help us recover and reuse the first stage. During the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing its Merlin engines, but the vehicle is still moving really fast. And this causes it to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, also known as the rocket's plume, which deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle's surface. That's why our flight-proven vehicles look the way that they do. That soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses, and with each flight, that layer of soot builds up a little bit more on the surface of the vehicle.
Both vehicles are on a nominal trajectory.
Now we are still more than 1 minute away from the beginning of the entry burn. On the left side of your screen, you can see the first stage decelerating and making its way back to Earth. At the request of our customer, we will not be displaying any views of Stage 2 for today. We do have some great views of the Falcon 9 first stage on its return journey, and it's not only using those Merlin engines, but also nitrogen gas thrusters and titanium grid fins for control. Reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, enabling more investments in critical space infrastructure. The Falcon 9 first stage supporting today's mission is performing this entry burn for its 18th time. And the payload fairings are also flight proven, with one half flying for its 28th time and the other for its 27th. Now, we are about 15 seconds away from the beginning of the entry burn, which is the second of 3 burns that Falcon 9 will perform on its way back to Vandenberg. You'll see the engine graphics light up as the engines themselves do on the bottom of your screen. The entry burn has begun for the first stage. This will last about 15 seconds, and again, we're slowing the vehicle down in preparation for its final burn and landing. Now, The entry burn is shut down on the first stage, and coming up next will be the landing burn in a little bit less than a minute from now. The Merlin engines on the Falcon first stage are optimized for sea level, and they each achieve around 190,000 pounds of thrust each during ascent and descent. At liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage has thrust greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power. In comparison, the single MVAC engine...
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
The single MVAC engine on the second stage has a much wider nozzle than the M1D sea level engines, and it's optimized to operate in space, producing 225,000 pounds of thrust in vacuum. Now the landing burn has begun for the Falcon 9 first stage. This is the final burn the booster will perform before landing. Another successful landing of our Falcon 9 rocket. This was the 18th,
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
This was the 18th launch and landing for this first stage. Now, as a reminder, we will not be showing any Stage 2 or deployment views at the request of our customer. So with that landing of the Falcon booster, we will be bringing our webcast to a close. We'd like to thank the NRO for entrusting us with today's mission, and we'd also like to thank the Range and FAA for their support. If you're interested in more launch coverage, head over to spacex.com/launches for the most up-to-date information. And when you're there, check out our new departure board featuring our upcoming launches with details such as mission name, launch, and landing site, and liftoff time. And remember to follow @SpaceX on X.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Liftoff of Crew 9. Go SpaceX, go Falcon, go NASA.